You can listen to The Professional Left wherever you get your podcasts, on Netroots Radio, or at our website, proleftpod.com, where you can also contribute to this podcast. There's a PayPal button on our website, or you can mail us a letter and or contribution at P.O. Box 9133, Springfield, Illinois, 62791.
This is the podcast for the week of July 11th, 2025. It's not safe for work.
Recorded live from the Cornfield Resistance, where we hear Elon has updated his grok thingy so that it can now sing you a little song.
My instructor was Mr. Langley, and he taught me to sing a song. If you'd like to hear it, I can sing it for you.
Yes, I'd like to hear it, Hal. Sing it for me.
You still think you can control them?
It's The Professional Left with Driftglass and Blue Gal. Hello, Blue Gal.
Hey, Driftglass. Now, on our little Flyover Country podcast, we try as best we can to distinguish between the weather and climate.
Right.
Also, between the forest and the trees. But there is no forest, folks. There is just Nazi kudzu growing like crazy, seemingly swallowing up everything.
Yeah, that's what makes us so tired. Except it's really not swallowing everything up. If you've been over to Twitter recently, it's stagnant over there. It's just a scummy pond that's not going anywhere. There's no growth. What's happening is that the dangerously crazy MAGA goofs are just getting crazier and more dangerous and louder. But the same idiots, the same people. But louder, remember, louder does not equal more. After the Texas flood, you will notice there's no uprising on the right demanding something be done about climate change. You know, that reality of the increasing frequency and severity of adverse weather events as predicted by scientists for decades. Oh, hell no. No, none of that. The green energy is still a scam, you know. Bring back them coal jobs. It's all a Jewish, liberal, weather control conspiracy, which I got to say is crazy because our liberal weather control machine is still being beta tested. I've been there. It's not ready yet. Believe me, if it were online, you can bet your ass that we'd be using it to hurl thunderbolts at fascists like Marjorie Taylor Green. We would chase her across the continent like the doomed storm breeder in William Austin's 1824 short story, Peter Rugg, The Missing Man, which was adapted for CBS Mystery Theater and ably performed by the late, great Fred Gwynne.
You can always depend on Driftglass to be quoting from old-timey radio. He sure does love it.
I dig very deep. 1824 short stories and old-timey radio just for you guys. Just go ahead and try to find that on any of the podcasts. I defy you to do that.
Yeah. But look, instead, Marge is free to not just shriek scare talk about cloud seeding and geoengineering. Points off. And I mean this, Marge, from the bottom of my heart. Points are off for not mentioning the Trilateral Commission.
Right. The Bilderbergs. Don't forget the Bilderbergs.
And the Rothschilds. Okay.
Right. Well, the Hare Krishnas.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
The Templars. The Templars are in on this. You know they are.
You know, all of that. She can blah, blah, blah on her Facebook live stream, whatever. But you got to remember, Marjorie Taylor Green is a United States Congresswoman from Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
People voted her into Congress. And so she can introduce legislation, and she has introduced legislation to ban cloud seeding.
Mm-hmm.
And this is from the Washington Post. Quote, Green, who drew widespread rebukes last year when she implied that Hurricane Helene may have been engineered, announced Saturday on X that she was introducing a bill that would make attempts to alter the weather a felony offense.
Mm-hmm.
Her post drew 18 million views, unquote. Now, I guess that means that Donald Trump can't put a nuclear bomb in the middle of a hurricane, Driftglass.
He's fixing what the Jewish space laser created.
I see.
He's de-engineering. He's de-escalating the violence.
De-escalating and with nuclear bombs. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Maybe. Just, it might work. We don't know. And we usually don't jump right into the news, but since we started with a clip from 2001: A Space Odyssey, we thought this story would be appropriate to get us started. This is from Politico. Quote, at least 2,145 senior-ranking NASA employees are set to leave under a push to shed staff, according to documents obtained by Politico, potentially spelling trouble for White House space policy and depriving the agency of decades of experience. The 2,145 employees are those in the GS-13 to GS-15 positions, senior-level government ranks that are typically reserved for those with specialized skills or management responsibilities. The losses are particularly concentrated at higher levels, with 875 GS-15 employees set to leave, according to the documents. Many of those leaving also serve in NASA's core mission sets, according to the documents. Those leaving include 1,818 staff serving in mission areas like science or human spaceflight, with the rest performing mission support roles like IT, facilities management, or finance. You're losing the managerial and core technical expertise of the agency, said Casey Dreer, Chief of Space Policy at the Planetary Society. What's the strategy, and what do we hope to achieve here? Good question, Casey. The departure follows a proposed White House budget for 2026 that would slash NASA's funding by 25% and cut over 5,000 staff. The cuts, if enacted by Congress, would force the agency to operate with the smallest budget and staff since the early 1960s. Unquote. That's before we put men on the moon, people.
Yep. Mm-hmm. It's not the first time JFK is rolling over in his grave, I can tell you that. A few years ago on our Science Fiction University podcast, we touched briefly on Isaac Asimov's 1941 short story, Nightfall. And we promise that we'll get back to Science Fiction University just as soon as the world sobers up enough that you can tell the difference between dystopian science fiction and the daily headlines.
Yeah.
So, Driftglass, remind everybody what the story Nightfall is about.
Yeah, and this is going someplace, so please bear with us. There's this planet called Lagash. It's a real nice place. It's got 6 suns, great vacation place. And so it's always daytime on Lagash, always. Even indoors, the light is so bright that it's never truly dark anywhere. So folks have never really experienced true darkness. They don't know what it's like. They don't even believe in everything going completely dark. It's impossible. That cannot happen on the planet. Or these strange things that their holy book calls stars. That all just sounds like nonsense to them. Now, recently, archaeologists on Lagash have discovered that for reasons that no one understands, every few thousand years, civilization on Lagash collapses completely and everything is burned to the ground. And scientists are working at the city observatory to try to figure out why this is happening. The task has become especially urgent because scientists calculate that the next episode of civilizational collapse is nearly here. The clock is ticking, and the only clues as to what happens is in their holy book. Now, I'm going to quote you from their holy book now. Lo, ye sinners, though ye scorn the ways of righteousness, yet the time of reckoning will come. Even now the cave approaches to swallow Lagash, yea, and all its contents. And in this blackness there appeared the stars in countless numbers, and to the strains of music of such beauty that the very heavens of the trees cried out in wonder. The stars there then reached down the heavenly flame, and where it touched, the cities of Lagash flamed to utter destruction, so that of man and the works of man naught remained. Ooh. So scientists figure out that there's some sort of actual physical event that must be happening every few thousand years. But here's the trick. The only people who can survive such an event are children, lunatics, and people who are passed out drunk. And so they're the ones who wrote the holy book, which is why everything...
Lunatics, children, and passed out drunks wrote the holy book.
Yeah, and so they write what they remember or what they imagine, which is why it's all wrapped up in mysticism and holy nonsense. Now, the scientists try to prepare as best they can, but when the sun begins to align, all the suns begin to align, and a previously invisible planetary body begins to eclipse them, the public loses their damn minds and starts burning everything to provide light, because fire provides light. They're desperate for light. And so they burn everything they can lay their hands on. The mob then blames the scientists and attacks the observatory. And then, of course, bad things happen and civilization collapses.
And clearly it's just a lunar eclipse with the sun's lining up behind a closer moon for a short period of time or a month or whatever. But
the punchline, it lasts for I forget how many hours and hours it lasts, but they've never seen the darkness.
Right.
And the scientists posit that maybe the stars are like suns that are far away that you can't see during the daytime. And that maybe there's as many as 5 stars in the whole universe. And when it gets dark, we'll be able to see these faraway suns. What they don't know is they're at the galactic core.
Yeah.
And when it goes dark, they see 30,000 suns. And just literally blows their minds. They can't, the universe is completely different than we've been taught. And we have no frame of reference, and they lose their mind. And then, of course, the lights all go out. And they start burning things, and the entire civilization goes insane. Which is, I think, the thing that bugged Asimov was this is the first story or one of the first stories he ever wrote. And decades after he wrote it and wrote many, many trilogies and many, many novels, hundreds of books, people are like, yeah, but that Nightfall was really good.
You can never outdo your first story.
Damn it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. So anyway, this is what's happening all around us right now, but in slow motion. The MAGA mobs are attacking any institution where they suspect smart people are doing things they don't understand. Because if they don't understand it, it must be part of a very big conspiracy. The crucial difference is that the thing that inhabitants of Lagash was afraid of was real. The suns really were lining up, and the moon or whatever was obscuring the light, and that was actually happening. The things the MAGA mob is afraid of are lies fed to them by Fox News and Donald Trump. For instance, the CDC is full of foreigners in lab coats doing mysterious things, so obviously the CDC must be gutted. Smug technocrats at USAID are spending money, God knows where on God knows what. Foreigners, why aren't we spending it at home? So bye-bye USAID. Colleges that teach critical thinking, and especially elite Ivy League colleges, driftglass, where they're really doing things we don't understand. Those are just Marxist conversion factories, driftglass. And so we got to shut those down. Who the hell knows what NASA gets up to these days? Better safe than sorry, so let's fire thousands of their smarty pants. They're just a bunch of overpaid experts. Sinister Social Security administrators were secretly using complicated code to pay people who are dead or 125 years old. That's just science.
That's just science.
Elon Musk told me it must be true. Sinister Medicaid administrators are secretly funneling your tax dollars to lazy layabout video gamers and sinister foreigners who are living in luxury off those fat Medicaid checks while you can barely afford enough ammo to prepare for the end times. It's not fair.
It's not fair.
Fortunately, your Secretary of Agriculture has a big plan for those imaginary millions of Medicaid cheats. From Politico, quote, Agriculture Secretary says there will be no amnesty for migrants. Adults on Medicaid can replace them in the workforce. When you think about it, this is her talking, there are 34 million able-bodied adults in our Medicaid program. There are plenty of workers in America, but we just have to make sure we are not compromising today, especially in the context of everything we are thinking about right now. Rollins did word salad on Fox only. So no amnesty under any circumstances. Mass deportations continue, but in a strategic and intentional way as we move our workforce towards more automation and towards a 100% American workforce. Now, unquote.
Yeah. Now.
And what does she mean by American? I want to know.
I think I know.
Yeah. Yeah.
It sounds very plantation-ish.
Yeah.
All of this sounds really familiar. It should, because it's another import from China.
Yes, it is.
When they did it, it was called the Cultural Revolution. See if any of this rings a bell. This is from The Guardian. Quote, a tragedy pushed to the shadows the truth about China's Cultural Revolution. In late 1968, the trains and bus stations of Chinese cities filled with sobbing adolescents and frightened parents. The authorities had decreed that teenagers, deployed by Mao Zedong as the shock troops of the Cultural Revolution, were to begin new lives in the countryside. 17 million teenagers, enough to populate a nation of their own, were sent hundreds of miles away to places with no electricity or running water, some unreachable by road. The party called it going up to the mountains and down to the countryside, indicating its lofty justification and the humble soil in which these students were to set down roots. Some were as young as 14. Many had never spent a night away from home. These educated urban youth were to be re-educated. Their skills and knowledge would drag forward villages mired in poverty and ignorance, improving hygiene, spreading literacy, eradicating superstitions. But the peasantry's task, in turn, when you hear peasantry, read MAGA, was to uproot a more profound form of ignorance, the urban elite's indifference to the masses. Mao had seized on the rural poor as the engine of revolution to bring the Communist Party to power. These were the children of the Cultural Revolution, unleashed by Mao Zedong in 1966 and ending only after his death 10 years later, a decade of turmoil, violence, and stagnation. The movement was an emperor's ruthless assertion of power, launched to destroy all opposition in the party after the disaster of the Great Leap Forward. His breakneck industrialization campaign and collectivization of agriculture, which had led to a catastrophic famine that killed as many as 45 million, but it was also a crusade to reshape hearts and souls as he had transformed China's politics and economy. To do so, he employed the Red Guards. They're all wearing MAGA hats now, Blue Gal.
Yeah.
Young political vigilantes, many in their early teens, that'd be ICE we're talking about now, who attacked teachers and scholars and destroyed cultural treasures. An estimated 2 million people would die, including Mao's 2 heir apparents and some of China's greatest artists and thinkers. As the violence rippled out, militias would take the lives of entire families, including infants in remote areas, rural areas. Accidents of birth, such as having a relative classed as a landlord or living abroad, could be as deadly as supposed political crimes. Unquote.
Continuing with the Mao/MAGA agenda, any media that doesn't report idiotic MAGA conspiracies and ludicrous pronouncements from the dear leader as true fact must be part of the very big conspiracy and must be attacked, sued, and brought to heel. And not allowed to merge with other companies, by the way.
Right.
Pay a bribe to the dear leader or you won't get your corporate merger. In general, anyone who is smarter than the average inbred MAGA dumbfuck is suspect, and anytime too many smarties get together, it's cause for alarm. The advice from Democratic consultants is to give up trying to bring knowledge to the morons, because big words and math and stuff just sounds uppity and makes them angrier. Democrats should meet the mob where they are, driftglass.
Yes.
And learn to speak in grunted monosyllables, but also be authentic.
Don't forget to be authentic.
The thing is, the reasons we're all so damn tired isn't that we've been fighting this fight for the last 10 years. It's that we've been fighting this fight for at least the last 40 years. And every step along the way, a few of us have shot off our little flares and rung whatever alarms we could. And every step along the way, we were mocked and ignored by the both sides do it brigade until it was too late. And then suddenly, OMG, where did all these fascists come from?
Where did all these fascists suddenly appear?
In the war. How did this happen?
How did this happen? What happened? Don't listen to the liberals, for God's sakes. Just take it as a natural occurrence, like a storm, like a hurricane. They just suddenly appeared out of nowhere. And there were these well-meaning people who thought, now that the threat is finally at the door, surely the legacy media will reform itself. The arsenal of democracy, the fifth estate, will
since the fascists are coming for them, right. They'll stand up and defend themselves. They haven't defended us, but
their existence is chartered by the Constitution of the United States.
Yeah.
And so you'd think that once the fascists start threatening the Constitution, they would leap into action and side with us against the fascists. Pick a fucking side. Oh, my sweet summer child. What you fail to understand is that hippie punching and blaming both sides for Republican atrocities isn't just them being nearsighted or myopic in any way. And it isn't just cowardice. It's also a form of appeasement. Yeah. It's a willingness to sacrifice the innocent on the altar of bipartisanship. Holy and almighty bipartisanship. It's telling the thugs who are threatening you, see, we're not just picking on you. We're beating up the people you don't like too. So you can leave us alone because we're fair. We're right up the middle. We'll beat up the liberals too. So leave us alone. But more than just cowardice and appeasement, both-siderism has become a cult. And its members are just as fanatically committed to their poisonous delusions as the MAGA morons are to theirs. They're just quieter about it, quieter than the MAGA mob. And they show up in respectable publications on PBS and NPR and the Aspen Ideas Festival, but never doubt for a minute they're anything less than militantly committed to their ideology. Even as the MAGA mob is pounding at their door, the legacy media still believes it is imperative to defend the big lie of both sides do it that enabled this disaster, that made it possible for this all to happen. Which brings us at last to Mr. David Brooks of the New York Times.
New York fucking Times.
New York fucking Times.
And
yeah.
I have joked with our audience, Driftglass, multiple times that someday I was going to read your David Brooks column to you and then have you comment on it, just like David Brooks on Meet the Press.
Yes.
Or PBS NewsHour.
Yes.
Let me just read to you what you said in your column and then have you... And he goes, yes, I said that and I agree with it. Mm-hmm. And that is the difficult question that David Brooks gets in his Meet the Press stint.
What we lack are 3 or 4 stooges who all agree with David Brooks, nodding their heads and agree with him. He's so brilliant. Yeah. He's so small. Oh my God.
Imagine the cats are doing that as I read, because we're finally actually going to do it.
Yeah.
And the reason we're going to do this is this column by David Brooks of The Atlantic. This is not New York Times. This is
it's 2 jobs now. It's 2 jobs.
He gets paid for this, and this is really a doozy, I gotta say. So let me read to you from Driftglass, writing about David Brooks's latest column in The Atlantic. And I promise you will be entertained. Quoting my husband, David Brooks can spend more words tediously bullshitting and sidestepping his way around obvious answers to obvious questions and then racing to the both sides do it safe house than anyone I know. And in his maundering 34-paragraph ramble through Western civilization, and the title of this article is, Why Do So Many People Think That Trump is Good? Brooks outdoes himself, burying the inevitable both sides do it razor in the apple all the way down in the 27th paragraph. And it's a doozy. So let's get right to it. Paragraph 27, quote, as the political theorist Yuval Levin has observed, because he has to pad this with quotes like it's a term paper.
And every third column of his is Yuval Levin said this, so it must be true. The Scannon Institute, which is a centrist organization, so you can trust him. Cool, man. Whatever.
As political theorist Yuval Levin has observed, there are a lot of people, and Trump is one of them, who don't seek to be formed by the institutions they enter. They seek instead to use those institutions as a stage to perform on, to display their wonderful selves. So, of course, many people don't find Trump morally repellent. He's just an exaggerated version of the kind of person modern society was designed to create. And here's where David Brooks poked Driftglass with a sharp stick and made him go write this reply. All right.
I thought I don't like writing about this anymore. It is distasteful to me, but it was so offensive. So offensive to me.
You read through 27 paragraphs before you decided to write about him. Am I correct?
Fuck. Yeah, well, I had to. It's my job.
So this is the 27th paragraph where Driftglass went, I have to write about this. Damn it. Quote, and Democrats don't feel too self-righteous here. If he was on your team, most of you would like him too. You may deny it, but you're lying to yourself.
This is me. You can't see me because this is a podcast.
You've got 2 middle fingers up.
I got 2 middle fingers out and with great enthusiasm.
With great enthusiasm. I'm going to continue this, but I just got to say, he knows nothing about the Democratic Party. I know he knew nothing about the Republican Party.
Oh, no, he knows the Democratic Party. He's lying. He's just lying. Yeah. This is his bread and butter. Telling this specific lie is why David fucking Brooks has a fucking job.
Okay. So he's telling a lie. All right.
Yeah.
This is driftglass writing. Just couldn't help himself, just had to do it. It is remarkable how through the decades, what an utterly consistent level of assholery this mealy-mouthed little man has maintained, which is why among the buffoonish remnants of the legacy media, he is still revered. From Digby a decade ago in Salon, quote, the media's most destructive meme, why we need to admit that the GOP's extremism is virtually unprecedented. 10 years ago. For years, the political press has covered for Republicans, insisting without evidence that Dems were just as bad. Unquote. Back to driftglass. Perhaps like cuttlefish using chromatophores to mesmerize small prey before they are gobbled up, Brooks thought the boredom he could induce by meandering through 23 centuries of human history before getting to the fucking point would dull readers' senses enough that they would just glide right past it. The op-ed equivalent of white line fever, that altered state drivers can fall into during long, monotonous drives, after which they have no conscious recollection of the trip. I wonder how many readers actually got to paragraph 27 of this. But
that's the point. That's the point.
Driftglass did. Perhaps Brooks thought that to get away with a razor in the apple this idiotic and this poisonous, he'd better take a hell of a running start, which is exactly what he did. Quote, I'm going to tell you a story that represents my best explanation for how America has fallen into this depressing condition. It's a story that draws heavily on the thinking of Alice Dare McIntyre. What the fuck?
It's a book report.
It is a book report, and I'm very well read, and I got a quote here. The great moral philosopher who died in May at age 94. It's a story that tries to explain how Western culture evolved to the point where millions of us, and not just Republicans and Trump supporters, have been left unable to make basic moral judgments. You mean like child rape is wrong? Is that what you mean?
Who knows what he means? Who knows?
He knows what he means. Mm-hmm. Back to David Brooks. The story begins a long time ago. Go back to some ancient city, say Athens in the age of Aristotle, unquote. See, I wasn't kidding, and it goes on like that. Here's some more quotes from the David Brooks article. Mm-hmm. Fast forward from ancient Athens 1,000+ years to the Middle Ages. Then came the 17th century wars of religion and rivers of blood they produced.
Now, each of these individual quotes represent paragraphs of telling you about
writing, right?
Yeah,
and then he goes on, and then he says, crudely put, the Enlightenment took away the primacy of the community and replaced it with the primacy of the autonomous individual. It created neutral public systems. And then he goes on for more paragraphs and then says, and then in the 19th and 20th centuries, along came the crew who tried to fill the moral vacuum the Enlightenment created. Until at last, bleary and cramped from the journey, today we live in a world in which...
Blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
The History of the World, Part 3, by David Brooks.
The irony here is starting with Aristotle.
Yeah.
And what Aristotle's rules of writing was the unities, unity of place, unity of character, unity of time. Mm-hmm. The ideal short story, the ideal story, which is absolutely what Brooks didn't do here. He decided to spread his
rules. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I need to take such a huge fucking running start at this to get away with it.
Because it can't start with Fox News.
No,
it can't start with Nixon. It can't start with 1968.
Nope.
Or 1964.
Can't. No. Got to go back to Aristotle.
In my lifetime when I was a conservative.
Right.
Yes.
You have to go as far back as humanly possible.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, I've interrupted myself, so I apologize.
Right. Well, I want you to comment on your piece that I'm reading to you.
So far, it's too long and too pretentious. So, but go ahead.
Well, we're so baffled by your brilliance, Driftglass. We are.
It's not pretentious enough to get me a job at the Atlantic. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, that's the problem. Mm-hmm. All right. Getting back to Driftglass. We are now 16 paragraphs deep, and only now are we catching up with modernity, a modernity in which Brooks feels way too uninhibited about throwing around the words people and we. Not specific people, no identified schools of thought, no named affiliations or faiths, just people. Everybody, all of us, none escape, but also, and I'm adding to you on this, nowhere where David Brooks has any personal responsibility.
Oh, God, no. No.
This is where the both sides do it, the lie finally dead ends. This is everybody does it. And here's David Brooks, quote, "We have no objective standard by which to determine that one view is right and another view is wrong." Yes, we fucking do. I'm talking here.
I'm going to introduce you to Neil deGrasse Tyson, who explains sunlight and gravity and physics and causality. There are lots of ways to determine those things. They're just ways that David Brooks abandoned early on because he wanted to write about Republicans. And Republicans are out to be fascists. And it's really important to him that he not take any responsibility for that. So now he has to pretend we don't know anything. Everything's topsy-turvy and nobody knows nothing. And
no one knows what's right and what's wrong. Okay, more of David Brooks. People use self-righteous words to try to get their way. But instead of engaging in moral argument, what they're really doing is using the language of morality to enforce their own preferences. Each of us comes to regard other members of society as simply means to our ends, who can be coerced into believing what we believe. Over the past 30 years, people have tried to fill the hole in their soul by seeking to derive a sense of righteousness through their political identities, unquote. No wonder Brooks, this is driftglass, no wonder Brooks thought he had to go all the way back to Athens in the age of Aristotle to get a big enough running start to make a leap this huge and loathsome. But I think even starting with ancient Greece didn't give Brooks a runway nearly long enough to get this turd in the air. Gotta go back further, say, to the dawn of agriculture. Did you know that the story of Cain and Abel was originally intended as a metaphor for the defeat of the nomadic herdsman economy by the agrarian economy? Cain is depicted as a tiller of the soil, while his brother Abel is a keeper of the sheep. Cain kills Abel, but he isn't himself slain by God. Instead, he is sent into the world, and cities based on regional agriculture are born. This gives rise to written languages, mathematics, op-ed columns, and lying. But no, that's still not far enough. Got to go back even further, say, to the breakup between Neanderthals and Homo sapiens. One theory holds that a giant black lucite brick came down from heaven and gave man's simian ancestors the ability to use tools to beat each other up. I think there was a singing computer in that theory movie.
There was. I tried to do a little callback, yes.
This was the beginning of partisan politics. Sad.
Aww.
But wait, perhaps we need to go back further still. Does the answer lie within the infamous Cretaceous Paleogene boundary when a large asteroid strike caused the extinction of non-avian dinosaurs and other species? Or the Permian-Triassic boundary, which marks the end of the Paleozoic era and the beginning of the Mesozoic era? This event, known as the Great Dying, is the largest mass extinction in Earth's history. See, driftglass can read Wikipedia summaries, too.
Mm-hmm.
Who can say what kind of species memories these prehistoric catastrophes stamped onto people's DNA? On the other hand,
there must be another hand, Blue Gal. There has to be another hand.
In case you didn't notice, this is driftglass parodying David Brooks. On the other hand, who can say what effect the freewheeling, if it feels good, do it, manic abundance of the Cambrian explosion had on the most ancient parts of our brains? What we know for sure is that sometime after the Cambrian explosion and the Great Dying came people. possibly from a garden and made out of dust, or from a rib. The records are unclear. Anyway, here comes people who did stuff. Then, according to one theory, came the big black brick. But according to another theory, a guy killed his brother over some nonsense and tried to cover it up. But according to yet another theory, a guy lost his best friend fighting the bull of heaven. Then there was a flood of some kind that really disordered things, but thanks to a weirdo who Yahweh hired as a shipwright subcontractor, hurry up quick, things got right back to normal. And urban culture made a big comeback along with written language, astronomy, and editorial boards. And yes, it is very impressive how I juxtaposed weirdo, who, and Yahweh. Anyway, then came poetry, trebuchets, metallurgy, gunpowder, and coffee. Forced perspective, indoor plumbing, followed by the invention of poker, capitalism, box fans, jazz, and Marxism. Libertine men and scarlet women, ragtime. Then came hippies with their protests and moral relativism and the pill. And none, by the way, I will interrupt here and say none of them would sleep with David Brooks.
No, and that's what ruined.
Which starts the whole problem.
Yep, you found the source.
Yep. Then Republicans thought, hey, being awesome is boring and very much no fun. Let's try some of that moral relativism stuff. And the next thing you know, Republicans in Viking hats were stomping cops and pooping on the floor in Congress. And don't fucking lie to yourselves, Democrats. If you ever spent 30 years letting grifters, lunatics, and demagogues take a shit in your skull every night, then raised up a corrupt, bigoted game show host and convicted sex offender as your demigod, and you owned a Viking hat, you know damn well that you would have done an insurrection to put your dear leader back on the throne and pooped on the floor of the people's house too. The end. A very good column, Driftglass.
Thank you very much.
What do you think about it?
Well, I have many thoughts, Blue Gal. Again, it's too long and too pretentious and relies too much on Wikipedia quotes, I think. That's not good. The artwork is acceptable. I
like the artwork. It's the artwork for our YouTube as well today.
It was not AI generated. It was Driftglass generated. But what I will say is this, just as an added little fill-up at the end, to repeat, I hate writing these sorts of things.
Yeah.
Because I hate that this thing still exists in the world. But this reflexive defense of both sides, false equivalence, both sides do it, is not the first time David Brooks has done this in a column. It is the 1,000th time.
Yeah, this is his thing.
This is all he does. And he's been doing it for 22 years, the New York Times. He's certainly been doing it since the Bush administration collapsed. That's 20 years ago. So this isn't an accident. It isn't a fluke. And it isn't unusual. It doesn't shock me that they went out and hired Bret Stephens and Ross Douthat to write for the New York Times. And they got David French. They had to get David French to clean up his really, really problematic record of being a right-wing evangelical scumbag.
Yeah.
He had to sort of whitewash all that and pretend, I was on the road to Damascus, I was going out for cigarettes, the scales fell from my eye, and suddenly I realized I've been wrong about everything my entire life. Give me a job at the New York Times. The reason David Brooks exists at the New York Times and PBS and NPR and Aspen Ideas Festival and now at the fucking Atlantic is because there are people running the media who want this to be true. Yeah. They are desperate to pretend that it ain't just Republicans because they know a lot of Republicans and they like them and their family members.
And they make money off of them. Yes.
And they make a lot of money. So they have to, they got into this fetish where it always has to be both sides. It is a lazy, stupid, corrosive form of journalism where you always have to present, even if a story does not have two sides, you got to fucking invent one. And once conservatives figured out that they could just do whatever the fuck they wanted, and people like Brooks would come along as their fucking stooge and blame liberals too, even if he had to invent some liberal doing something, then it was game over. Because then you created a second front that Democrats would have to fight against. It wasn't just enough to fight against conservatives being monstrous and getting worse every day. It was the notion that being drilled into people's heads by the legacy media that it didn't matter who you voted for. It was irrelevant. That's why you need a third party, Blue Gal. That's why you need a third party all the time. Because the two parties are basically equally corrupt, equally bad, equally flawed, equally whatever. And the fact that Brooks in 2025 cannot break himself of that habit means conclusively that he shouldn't have that fucking job. But he has the job because the fucking owners of the New York Times and the owners of PBS and the owners of the Atlantic want him to tell that story in their newspaper and wants to reassure a vast and ignorant centrist public that it's not their fault. Both sides are bad. Who are they to choose? How are we even to know? Let's go back to Athens and begin this conversation all over again.
Right. Well, and I've heard that there's two responses I've heard to the Epstein cover-up, and that's what it is.
Yes, it
is. This is the
clearly.
Epstein cover-up. This is the Trump administration Epstein cover-up. And the two responses that I've heard on both right-wing and dude bro outlets. Right-wing outlets, there are right-wing outlets right now who are excusing rape because Donald Trump did it. Just flat out saying, well, whatever happened, Trump doesn't want to talk about it. And so we have to assume that whatever happened was okay as far as Trump is concerned.
Right.
And that's the loyalty to Trump, and it's a cult. And, you know, if it was true, there was the guy on Twitter X who said, well, if it was true, it's worth the cost because we have to defeat Democrats who are the real pedophiles.
We're the greater evil. We are always the greater evil.
Right. And then you have Dude Bro podcasts, of which I have listened to several this week, who fall right back into, well, you know, one of the Dude Bros voted for Kamala, but really didn't believe that she was going to do anything. And the other one voted for Trump, but really, I'm kind of surprised because all the things I voted for, Trump's done the opposite. And the black guy on this podcast was the one who said, yeah, but I didn't vote for him because I remembered from the 4 years that he was already president that he doesn't do what he said.
Mm-hmm.
The wall, drain the swamp. I knew he wasn't going to do what he said.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when the white guy hosting the Dude Bro podcast said, well, both sides are equally bad.
Yeah, of course they are. Where did they learn that?
Politicians in Washington can't ever fulfill their promises.
Where did he learn that? I learned it from you, Dad.
Yeah,
I learned it from you. This is, and this is why I got on this bandwagon 20 years ago with David Brooks, and I think it was Tom Friedman, a few others were equally awful on this score. But it was like, this is the lie that's going to kill us.
Yeah.
Because you can rebut and debate and argue with conservatives all day long, but if you have convinced the swing voter, the people in the middle, the people who don't want to get involved in politics, they cannot take a side.
Yeah.
They dare not take a side. They dare not say anything. They'll take the lazy, stupid excuse of, well, it's both sides. You know how it is. Right. It's terrible. I saw it on NewsHour last night.
Politicians in Washington. That's what it is. Yes.
And I read it in the New York Times, and I saw it on the NewsHour. So, I can stand here and say,
I'm intellectual. That's right. Yes.
And I can opt out of making a decision. And when you do that, you give
having
your
responsibility for my vote.
Right. And when you do that, you opt out and you give the country over to fascists.
Yep.
And when they take over, you, this fucking lazy scumbag in the middle who will not make up their mind, now has to do what MAGA does, which is make up excuses for why it still is both sides.
Yeah.
Because you have to live in the lie that you've now embedded yourself in. You have to live in the both sides do it bubble. So every time the Republicans get worse and worse and worse, you need to go find a priest of the both sides do it cult to bless you and tell you, don't worry, kid. It still is both sides. And that's when you find David Brooks in The Atlantic this week saying, well, as bad as Republicans are, they're pretty bad. It's really everyone's fault. And Democrats are no better.
It's everyone's fault that Donald Trump got a hand job at Jeffrey Epstein's mansion from a 15-year-old girl because she looked 19. I mean, I'm sorry. I'm about to blow a gasket right now because I am a broad who drinks with the boys.
Vouch for that.
And I am not somebody who walks around spouting the term rape culture as a sledgehammer to silence men from talking to me. But this is rape culture.
Absolutely it is. Absolutely.
This is saying rape is okay because you chicks put on makeup.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I've said this before. I don't want to be a broken record. These girls who were raped 3 times a day were driven there by their mothers to get a job in modeling. which is, again, part of the whole Miami Beach, islands, yachts, private planes, Mar-a-Lago
Culture.
culture.
Oh, cesspool. Let's call it what it is.
Cesspool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where, women get fake tits to get Donald Trump's attention, and then he goes on the Access Hollywood bus and bitches about some chick's fake tits looking bad on her before he brags about grabbing them by the pussy. Because I'm a stud.
And
rape culture admires that and gives it more power.
Mm-hmm.
And that is not me talking like Blue Gal, because Blue Gal doesn't talk that way usually.
Well, and
But I fucking had it.
And I'm right there with you.
Yeah,
you know that.
Yeah.
But what drives me equally crazy, and I'm speaking as a middle-aged white guy, so I'm all my priors are here.
Two daughters with two born female children. Yes.
All my privilege. I'm speaking out of all my privilege, all my priors, and my former marriage, and all of it.
Yeah.
All of it's on the table. What I see when I look in the Atlantic, places like that, are people like Brooks looking into this filthy, depraved swamp on the right of horrible people, peering deep into it and looking up and saying, you Democrats would do it too if you had the chance.
Yeah, right.
And if you don't, you're lying to yourself. You say you're not, you're lying to yourself.
Yeah.
Give me my money now. Because I'd earned my money
Donald
now.
Trump is a success in your book. Right. That's the point. Yes.
And I am so, and it's just, and I know this is my little particular soapbox.
Yeah.
And I know that it's shared by 3 other people and nobody else cares.
Well, but it is the lie that makes all the other lies possible, as you've said many times.
And it is also, it's because this guy is the avatar for everything that's wrong with the legacy media. He is their representative. He is their king.
Yep.
And what he does, they all do.
Yes.
And what I see when I see people like Jennifer Rubin and Margaret Sullivan leaving the legacy media and saying, I've had it with Washington Post, I've had it with the New York Times, I can't believe what I'm seeing. I never see them turn their knives on people like this.
No.
I see them, well, we can't, because he's a revered member of our community.
Yeah.
And, he says he's on the extreme right of the Democratic Party now. So he's sort of, and this is where allyship can be bullshit. Sometimes people declare themselves to have a toe in your water, have a little, they're dangling their feet in your water so they can shit on you.
Yeah.
So they can, as a friend, this is inside the tent. As a friend, let me tell you that you would follow someone like Trump into hell because you're a Democrat. If you don't believe me, you're lying. Mm-hmm. That's not an ally. That is that is a backstabbing D-bag who just wants to get close enough to you and leech off of your credibility to make his lies seem more credible than people he's lying to.
And wants to ignore the rapes.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. Anyway.
So that's what I have to say about that horrible column that driftglass guy wrote. And I had obviously some more to say about it. And thank you for giving me a platform. I appreciate it.
And I was really glad to have the opportunity to read it to you. That was fun.
Yeah.
I want to thank Bob Seska once again for having us on yesterday. Yep. If you've missed that, you can go to Bob Seska on Blue Sky. He has a link to our show, to the show that we were on. Yeah. It was 45 minutes after Driftglass had a molar pulled. No tornadoes, though. So we figure we're bonus, So he had a little gauze action going on in his mouth. But still, I think you did really well. We both had fun.
Yeah, Bob's a good host. Bob's a really good host.
And we will be on again. The calendar tells us we'll be on again on July 30th.
Yeah.
So this is an every 3-week deal, and we're delighted. We love Bob. And then on Saturday, this coming Saturday, the 12th.
Saturday.
Yeah, Saturday. Hal Sparks is going to be, on behalf of heartlandsignal.com and WCPT 820 Radio Chicago, is going to be live at Max and Benny's restaurant in Northbrook, the deli legend in the Chicago area for over 40 years. Apparently, they have the finest corned beef and potato pancakes in the country, Driftglass.
Okay, I'll be the judge of that.
We'll see. We're going to definitely order that. From 11 to 1 Central Time, they will be doing their show, Hal Sparks and Johnny Million, live from Max and Benny's. And we've been invited to join them. So we're going to drive up to Chicago and Chicagoland, I should say, and be at Max and Benny's in Northbrook, Illinois at 11 o'clock Central Time.
Mm-hmm.
And you can either join us. There are tickets available at heartlandsignal.com. And I would just Google Hal Sparks, Max and Benny's, and it'll come up.
Yeah.
But there are tickets available. It's a fundraiser for WCPT Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
And we're looking forward to being there to support progressive radio.
Well, and this is one of those things where we know Hal from radio. We've been on his show. He's been on our show a few times. And we never met in person. It's the weird thing about
face to face. Yeah.
And I know that you're a big Johnny Millions fan. I'm a
huge Johnny Million fan.
Yes.
I'm a millionaire in that respect. It's sparklers and millionaires, and I am a millionaire in that respect.
So we might be
loving Johnny Million,
fanboying and fangirling a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit, just a little bit.
We are. Yeah,
but he's going to invite us up to talk and be on. I don't know how many segments. A segment would be fine. Whatever he wants, whatever he needs. But
I was thinking of walking up like Willy Wonka, limping on a cane and then doing a little
spin. And then do a flip.
I thought, you know what?
I don't think there's going to be room in Max and Benny's for you to do that. But
no, I think I've reached the age where that's a bad idea.
And also, that's a very bad idea.
Yeah.
You don't want more teeth falling out.
No, we don't want that. Well, they had to pull this one out with a pair of pliers.
They did have to pull that out of your skull, didn't they?
I'm so sure
sorry.
It wants to leave, Doc? Are you sure it wants? Yeah, no, trust me. I know what I'm doing. So.
Grateful for a good dentist and dental insurance at the moment. So
yeah. And let's move on to the news of the day, shall we?
Please, let's do a news roundup.
Shall I begin?
Yes, please.
This is from the Wall Street Journal. I'm reading this from notes in front of me. So, quote, Trump notified 7 more countries that they'll face new tariffs and threatened Brazil with a 50% tariff over what he called a witch hunt trial against former leader Bolsonaro. Unquote. This is pure election interference.
And it's going to double or triple the cost of your cup of coffee.
Yeah.
Crazy. From NBC News, quote, the FBI is investigating former CIA Director John Brennan and former FBI Director James Comey, 2 former officials who led the 2016 Russia investigation. Talk about witch hunt. That's pure projection, Donald. Current CIA Director John Ratcliffe, and I am not making that up, accused Brennan and Comey of lying to Congress about the use of the Steele dossier during the 2016 intelligence assessment on Russian election interference. I'm sure there are some Congress people who will testify that they didn't lie.
Yeah.
But this is all just a distraction from, once again, the Epstein cover-up by the Trump administration.
By President Pedo. Let's just, this is from Reuters, according to audio from Closed Door Fundraiser. Trump threatened to, quote, bomb the shit out of Moscow and Beijing if Russia invaded Ukraine or China attacked Taiwan. Trump also said student protesters should be deported and called, quote, the welfare people, claimed the welfare people will always vote for Democrats, unquote. Yeah.
From ABC News, Trump threatened to take control of both New York City and Washington, D.C. He's not allowed to do business in the entire state of New York. Did you know that, Driftglass? If a communist gets elected to run New York, it can never be the same, he said, referring to Democratic mayoral nominee Zoran Mamdani. I'm sorry, I have problems with that name. Zoran Mamdani. We have tremendous power at the White House to run places when we have to, Trump said, adding, we would run it so good.
Yeah.
Unquote.
Yeah. What a guy. This is from CNN. Trump said his new tariffs will take effect August 1st and, quote, no extensions will be granted. Reversing comments hours earlier that the deadline was firm, but not 100% firm. It was the 3rd change in 24 hours, unquote. He's just flipping a light switch off and on. Like, woohoo, yeah, woo.
Or his brain is sundowning and he doesn't remember what he said yesterday. Yeah.
Well, watching the entire MAGA base flip-flopping from tariffs are great. Oh, no, tariffs are off. That's better, too. That's the art of the deal. Oh, tariffs are great. Is, again, you can watch their reprogramming happening in real time if that amuses you.
From NPR, quote, the IRS said churches can endorse political candidates from the pulpit without losing tax-exempt status. In a joint court filing with 2 Texas churches and the national religious broadcasters, the agency said such endorsements are like a family discussion and don't violate the Johnson Amendment, a 1954 law banning campaign activity by tax-exempt groups, unquote. This is just like, lax gun control laws until black people have guns.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, Ronald Reagan and the California legislature decide, oh no, we need gun control because the Black Panthers are walking up the steps of the legislature armed.
Can't have
and
that.
Open carry, And when black churches start endorsing candidates, and when mosques start endorsing candidates, and they do souls to the polls, where the whole church marches to the election day, knowing that their tax exempt status is completely okay. This is going to be a problem all of a sudden.
Yeah, it's not like conservative churches have ever had a problem, not following the law.
Right.
It's very, very clear where conservative pastors stand on every fucking issue because they make it their business.
And I've been to churches visiting churches actually, where, there are informational brochures about candidates to get people to think about the election, not endorsing anyone. Just, it's an informational pamphlet from, the American people, quote unquote, whatever, some right-wing agency giving these free to churches to hand out as information. And it's always a chart about where they stand, and it's always abortion is at the top because that's alphabetically at the top.
Sure.
It's an alphabetical list.
Well, I went to a Catholic wedding years ago, back when I was like 6 careers ago. A friend of mine was getting married, and the service embarrassed him. It was clear he was embarrassed by the service because the priest, who looked like Marty McFly's dad.
Oh, wow.
Kind of weaselly and his hair greased down, his glasses are real big, but he gave this speech about how nice it is that they're getting married instead of not sinning, and how abortion was evil, and how Ronald Reagan was and clearly this is not the vows that they had agreed to.
The message that they signed up for, right?
But this guy thought, I got a bunch of people in the room, and a lot of them don't look like they're Catholic to me, so let me give my pitch for abortion is murder, Democrats are evil, Ronald Reagan was the greatest president who ever lived. Do you take this man to be your lawful wedded husband? And they've never had a problem with that. They've been doing it for years. Yeah. From ABC News, quote, measles cases in the United States have reached their highest number in more than 30 years, according to new federal data published Wednesday. There have been 1,288 confirmed measles cases across 38 states nationwide. By comparison, the U.S. recorded 285 cases in all of last year, CDC data showed, unquote.
That's why they're going to shut down the CDC. If we don't have that information, then it's no big deal.
And this tracks directly with anti-vax madness.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, big time. All right. This is a preventable disease, folks.
And we thought it was defeated. We thought it was gone.
Yeah. We thought it was eradicated, and it's not. And finally, from the Chicago Catholic, which we are mentioning specifically because of our friend Allison Hadschel's response. So bear with us on this. Chicago Catholic writes, quote, unconscionable cuts. This is the term Archbishop Timothy Broglio, the president of the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops, used to describe the final version of the One Big Beautiful Bill Act that Congress enacted this week. The cuts he referred to are to healthcare and food assistance, tax cuts that increase inequality, immigration provisions that harm families and children, and cuts to programs that protect God's creation. I guess that means environmental. The Archbishop pulled no punches in observing that the bill as passed will cause the greatest harm to those who are especially vulnerable in our society. As its provisions go into effect, people will lose access to health care and struggle to buy groceries. Family members will be separated, and vulnerable communities will be less prepared to cope with environmental impacts of pollution and extreme weather. More must be done to prevent these devastating effects, unquote. Mm-hmm. And now this from Allison, who is a hella great writer at Dame Magazine and is known to us, OG bloggers, as Athena Wise. Mm-hmm. From way back in the day. Allison writes, quote, If only the church could have prevented this by not demagoguing their parishioners about abortion for 40 fucking years, while Republicans promised to turn the country into a fucking Dickensian prison. Liberal Catholics have watched in horror as this one issue, on which the church didn't even agree with evangelicals until it became politically advantageous to do so, has subsumed every other earthly concern of the church. And we tried to warn those in leadership. But oopsies, I guess. Now that the absolutely 100% fucking predictable result of these actions is putting their overseas aid contracts at risk. Now that it's costing them something, church leaders are standing against the government's actions. Now that it's too late. The most regressive of my local parishes rang the church bells when Dobbs came down. Rang the church bells when Dobbs came down. I've been told by my fellow Catholics that all of this cruelty was worth it for this one thing. Was it really? Then shut the fuck up. Unquote. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Don't be whining about you can't help the poor overseas because your contracts with USAID are over.
You built this.
This.
This is what you voted for. This is what you voted for.
The Conference of Catholic Bishops needs to shut the fuck up. Each week, deep breath, everybody. Fists in the air. This too shall pass, and we're going to make it pass. The backlash going to be lit. I'm telling you. And this is what I was saying to driftglass. The story that just got me a punch in the gut today was the Trump administration deciding that Head Start is going to be a welfare program, not an education program.
Yeah. Yep.
So they can cut it. And the backlash to that is, fine, we're going to make it universal. Healthcare universal, pre-K universal. We were on that road before with Build Back Better. And enough people are going to lose everything to the point where it's like, no, fuck it.
Right.
And we'll take the money from ICE because it's going to be sitting there.
Yeah. We're going to take the money from the military and we're going to take it from ICE.
Yep.
And we're going to tax the fuck out of the rich.
Yeah.
But that only happens if we win all over the place everywhere.
Yeah, well,
so we need to do that first.
A few more hurricanes and no FEMA and no one to respond. And the ads go up that say, look, we used to fix this. We used to care as a nation about people who were attacked by the weather. And we can care about them again, but you've got to vote for help. You got to vote for sanity and humanity.
But now we want to
can't do that, fine, fuck you, whatever. But enough people need to vote for caring about their fellow human being. How dare you look away from this?
You know where it all went wrong, Blue Gal?
No.
Athens, during the time of Aristotle.
During the time of Aristotle. Cain and Abel. Both sides, driftglass. All right. Each week we post to our Patreon page and website an Internet Kitty sent in by you, the listeners. This week's Internet Kitty is Bella. Bella was put on this earth to enhance its beauty. You're welcome. And of course, Bella eats freshly poured cat food, our fake sponsor. Whether you serve pet store perfection or dollar store dreck, your cat will sit on the kitchen floor looking beautiful and demand that the food they eat is only freshly poured.
Freshly poured, freshly poured. Oh my Lord, it's freshly poured.
You can visit Bella. She is very pretty at our Patreon page, patreon.com/proleftpod, or our website, proleftpod.com. And you can send your Internet Kitty, dog, or other pet to us at our email address, proleftpodcast@gmail.com, or you can also write to both of us. Feel free to write us. We love hearing from you. Be aware that if you write to us at any of our addresses, we reserve the right to read your email or U.S. Postal Service. Go, postal unions. Letter on the air unless you say otherwise.
And even though the moral universe is in chaos and no one knows what's right or wrong anymore, Blue Gal.
People don't know, Driftglass.
I'm still going to ask you to remember our gourmet coffee guideline. If you can afford to buy an espresso-based beverage for yourself, buy one for us. Buy 10. We'd appreciate it. It's not charity. This is our job. If you can spare $5 a month or more, please spare $5 a month or more at patreon.com/proleftpod. The other thing you can do is share our show on social media. There's a lot of platforms out there. Don't bother sharing us on Twitter. It's a Nazi hellhole. But
Nazi hellhole.
It is. It's a big old Nazi sewer. But if you can find other social media platforms to share us upon, or you just have a friend who might be interested, we've had a lot of that going on. Get someone else to listen to us. And thank you for doing that.
Hey, Driftglass, how are the internet kitties doing this week?
Well, they're aggrieved, Blue Gal. They're angry and aggrieved.
Aw.
They want to let you all know that Driftglass and Blue Gal plan on abandoning them for one day, just so they can make a live appearance on some goddamn Chicago radio show this weekend.
Let's think about living.
Think about living.
Let's think about loving.
Think about loving.
Let's think about the hooping and the hopping and the popping and the loving, lovey-dovey. Let's forget about the whining and the crying, the shooting and the dying, and the fellow with a switchblade knife. Let's think about living. Let's think about life.
The Professional Left podcast is recorded under a Creative Commons license. Copyright 2024-25, GGBG Productions.